What's up, lore masters? It's been a while since we broke down the Xindi War. To recap, the NX-01 Enterprise had been consistently attempting to determine who and what the Xindi were, as well as to stop them from creating a mega weapon which they'd use to attack Earth. They had discovered that the distortions and gravity wells within the expanse were being artificially constructed, and ultimately, every time they would find a new clue, there would be more questions raised, rarely any answers. These aberrations, caused by the distortions, would be devastating. They would wreak havoc on the ship. This would include one of them, which would strike Archer while he was attempting to save T'Pol. The captain would be infected with parasites from the hit, and they would ultimately inhibit his ability to remember long term. Anything from after he got hit, at least. It's never really explored, but I wonder if these parasites weren't sent on purpose. We ultimately know that all of this is being put together by the Sphere Builders, and perhaps they did this to ensure the NX-01 would not be able to accomplish its mission. This also brings me to another interesting conclusion. For the universe of Star Trek to be, at any point, positive, things can only happen in a certain way. If they don't, if they deviate even just a little, then it's effectively the end of everything good. To that point, with Captain Archer out of the fight, it would leave T'Pol in command. Unfortunately, the female Vulcan would not be up to the task, with every mission and attempt to stop the weapon failing. Earth ultimately was destroyed, and the Xindi ensured that humans became an extinct race. The survivors of all remaining Earth colonies, less than 6,000, eat your heart out, Battlestar Galactica, found refuge in a system far from the Expanse. All of this happening without the captain being able to remember it. These 6,000 people, only one convoy would finally make it to their home, and that convoy would have been escorted by the Enterprise. This is where the last vestiges of humanity would exist, trying to stay quiet and out of the way. It would be ironic that the Vulcan High Command would reach out to T'Pol while she was helping the convoy, for her safety of course, saying it's the humans' fault for trying to expand so quickly when they weren't ready. Of course, it was the Vulcans that held the humans back for over 100 years, ensuring their building of faster ships, defenses, and scanning technology would be stunted as well. And then, when Earth was about to be destroyed, the Vulcans did nothing. They stayed back and watched as everyone was murdered, and then, again, they blamed it on humanity for it happening. While I'll admit it's not 100% the fault of the Vulcans, they did play a part in this, and not defending humanity when humanity needed them, after what the Vulcans required the United Earth to go through, was definitely one of the most cowardly things I've ever seen the Vulcans do. Time would do its thing, and events would still occur. The crew of the Enterprise continued with their lives, some becoming captains and others just staying on the ship, drowning themselves in their duties. And all while the Xindi ravaged the Alpha Quadrant. The destroyers of humanity set up bases and would have ships that would roam the universe looking for the last remnants of the United Earth. During all this time, Phlox, failing to cure Archer, returned home and continued to work on treatment, but he would largely be unsuccessful. It would take a long time, but the doctor would be able to invent a machine that could cure Archer. And with this cure, he discovered something amazing. The regions where the machines had destroyed the parasites wouldn't only destroy them in the present, but in the past as well. This does raise an interesting question though. If all of the parasites were destroyed in the past, why didn't that impact the present we're watching? T'Pol states that this could alter history if they got rid of all of the parasites, which is possible. But they did destroy this one cluster that now isn't showing up anywhere. In theory, if the cluster had been destroyed in the past, then he would have never known about its existence. It's possible, I guess, that they all loved Archer so much that they held on to the memories and didn't lose them, but it's kind of weird. Unfortunately, the Doctor's affiliation and affinity for humans would be known by the Xindi, and they hired a Euridian to follow him if he ever left his home planet. And once he had, the Xindi would be able to identify the last colony of the humans. They would dispatch 6 of their own ships to handle the situation. With the Xindi on the way, Phlox and T'Pol would attempt to talk Captain Tucker into letting them use the warp core to destroy the rest of the parasites. But the former engineer declined as power was at a premium and was needed for weapons. And with T'Pol and Phlox shut down, the NX-01 Enterprise would move to engage the Xindi. The Xindi fired on the NX-01, its shields holding after the initial volley. While the Vulcans had removed themselves from the fight, the Andorians weren't afraid to assist. having given advanced technology to the NX-01, including shields. The Enterprise and its allies engaged the Xindi, but they were outmatched 2-1. 3 Xindi ships would be disabled or destroyed, but it would be all for naught as the USS Intrepid, which was disabled, forcing it to disengage, and the NX-01 would lose its shields and the bridge be destroyed. The Xindi began beaming aboard and slaughtering what was left of the crew. T'Pol convinces the captain and Phlox to finish the procedure, however, but the equipment would be damaged. Archer would ultimately decide to cause an implosion on the NX-01 Enterprise. In theory, this would eradicate the Parasites, but it's also going to destroy the ship. The captain tells Phlox and T'Pol to leave the ship as they wouldn't be harmed. The Xindi were only after humans after all. However, because they are big damn heroes, both T'Pol and Phlox would stay and assist Archer to buy him time. The 3 of them would die, but not before activating the implosion and erasing the Parasites completely. This would reset everything with a very pushy Archer, making T'Pol his sexy nurse. Ultimately, I was on the fence in breaking down this part of the Xindi War. It technically does fit, but has a reset button. I do think it shows a possible attempt by the Sphere Builders to stop the crew, though, and portrays what could have happened if Archer was taken out of the fight, which is something worthy of breaking down. Let me know your opinions, though. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.